Hello and welcome to a deep dive episode. Today we are going to be deep diving the song Right Where You Left Me. If you have not gone and listened to our show and tell episode that predates this one, definitely go and check it out. We discussed Mad Women on that episode. It's super spicy, I think. And
yeah, maybe grab a glass of wine first. It might help.
a glass of wine would 100% make that episode top notch, even though it's pretty good already. And of course, if you like what you hear, please rate, review, and subscribe to our podcast. We love reviews. We really, really love to hear from listeners who tell us how much they connect with the episodes. If you have anything to share, just let us know what's on your brain.
No, review us if you like us. If you have comments and negative feedback, you can find us on Instagram, TikTok, DM us.
I remember the first time a podcast said this, and it helped me understand, so I'll say it too. When you like and rate and review and follow and all of those things, it does a couple of things. It helps other people find us. So if you are a fan of the lyrics-focused Taylor Swift analysis and you want to see more of that in the world, this you liking, rating, reviewing, sharing, all of that helps us get a wider audience, which is great. And it'll also help us be able to, get more sponsors and be able to do more and more of this and create more content for you. So yes, it is something we would love for you to do for us. But those are some of the effects that will have, and that's why it's so important and why people always ask for it. And I did not know that until someone told me. So.
That's the marketer in you, Jen. The what's in it for me, our listeners. Thank you for that.
Cool. Well, let's jump into our deep dive. Jen, do you want to set us up with our rhetorical triangle?
Yes. So as always, who is the speaker, who is the audience, and what is the purpose of this text? And we will end with saying what we all think the purpose is. So we can get right into it. Speaker, it's first person, as many of her songs are. So kind of what else do we know about the speaker other than it's from an I point of view?
The speaker is stuck. The speaker is right. The first time we see the I is, but I'm right where you left me. And I find it very, can we talk about the way this song begins? I always break the rhetorical triangle thing because I'm a bad student.
It sets the scene, which does help us understand.
It does. And I like friends break up, friends get married, strangers get born, strangers get buried, trends change, rumors fly through new skies, but I'm right where you left me. Matches burn after the other, pages turn and stick to each other, wages earned and lessons learned, but I'm right where you left me. This is definitely one of those songs where I listened to it the first couple times and I was like, huh? What does that mean? So
a lot of time has passed.
Yes,
I think this is a song that
a very poetic way to say time has passed.
Yes.
Spans, it's been brewing for a long time. These emotions.
Yeah. And I think we start very much with time passing. Friends break up, friends get married. Okay, time's passing, strangers get born, strangers get buried. Okay, trends change, all of that. What I think is interesting when we get to the wages earned and lessons learned, where it's kind of, we're moving on just from time, but other people's lives are moving on. Yeah, people are aging, people are getting smarter, people are making money. But this speaker is in the exact same spot that she's been in.
The first ones, friends break up, friends get married, you're talking about friends and you have talking about friends, so it's intimate relations or people you know. And then strangers get born, strangers get buried. It's not intimate, people you don't know. So you're almost saying that things change, evolve, time moves on, both for the people in my life and also just in the world
across the spectrum.
In general.
Yeah, this opening
change.
Is just setting the magnitude. It's just across the board, whether it's in my life, whether it's outside, whether it's people I know, whether it's people I don't. And then it's whether it's in your own life, you learn lessons or it's not. But all of that contrasts with the fact that she hasn't changed in any way. She has not learned lessons. She has not gone through life events. She has not done anything. I think that's the contrast line at the very end of that first stanza.
It's all different ways to measure time.
And she's the same in all of them.
But I'm right where you left me. Help. I'm still at the restaurant. So then we start to paint the picture. So you've got this setting of time. Time moves on, but I don't. and then we get into the present tense of where she is and the picture and the story that she's actually trying to tell
like
here.
Supporting arguments. Like, I'm
Ooh,
right.
hey.
I am right where you left me. Here's the evidence. I'm still at the restaurant. I'm still in that corner that I haunt.
Jen, in the last episode, you talked about, you kind of set up the story for what this song is about. This woman who, like, everything moves on and she gets stuck after she's been dumped and she just doesn't move on. 3 things, pop culture references that came to mind. Arrested Development. Maybe not the show, but the show is called Arrested Development. Like, this idea that, like, she is stuck in 23. The movie Ghost, because he's literally haunting all the spaces where after he dies. Haven't seen that movie since I was like 10. A 10-year-old shouldn't see that movie, but they showed it us in camp. That's a whole other issue that I've been scarred by. And then there's this new show on Netflix called School Spirits. Have you guys heard of it or seen it? No. Basically, this girl disappears or dies in school, and her spirit stays in school, and then she meets all these other people who have also died in the school, and they are trapped at the age at which they died, and they all have to, like, work together to figure out what happened to her. But it's actually kind of a fun show, but it really reminded me of this idea. Although in this song she's not dead, she actually just, like, makes the choice to not move on.
Yeah.
But I think
we referenced Miss Havisham in the last episode, and that's still, even outside of Mad Woman, that's very relevant to this song. Sorry, Monzi, go ahead.
I definitely get the impression that she's, like, metaphorically stuck, but the way that these lyrics are written, it does also kind of hint at, like, physically and literally stuck. Like,
help, I'm still at the restaurant.
Still at the restaurant. She's just sitting there. And then, like, even later, when it says, did you ever hear about the girl who got frozen? Time went on for everyone else. It's like something that people talk about and is noticeable enough that people see it. And therefore it's not just metaphorical. There is some level of literality to it.
Yeah. Something noticeable about this.
It kind of reminds me of also the song, The Man Who Can't Be Moved by The Script. It's like, he's like, I'm just going to be in this one place so that if you ever remember me and want to come back, like, you'll know exactly where to find me because I never left.
I think it is.
Also, sorry, one other reference. And I think I've referenced this when we talked about another song at some point, so I might be doubling down. But it also reminds me again of The Notebook, where he stays in the same place. He builds a house. If she ever wants to come back, he's in the exact same place. And she does come back in that one.
I think it is metaphorical because she said still 23 inside her fantasy, how it was supposed to be. So, like, in her mind, she's still at the restaurant. Well, and she's never moved on from getting broken up with.
I think it's both. I think physically you can't stay 23 forever. So I think that part is metaphorical. Unless you're Dorian Gray. Oh, yeah. But, like, or what's that one with never mind.
Benjamin Button?
No, I was thinking of that one with
The Age of Adelaide.
Yes.
I like that we're on that I'm just like, I know what you're talking about. I'm there.
That actually, I think, is based off of a book, too, The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue.
Yeah, so they're actually not based off of each other, but they should be because they're very similar.
They're the same story. How are they not based off of each other?
I went through a whole rabbit. There has to be, but they didn't give it credit or, like, something.
Yeah. There's
something there.
Rights and then
there's some noise happening there.
There's a lawsuit somewhere.
Yeah, I don't know. Anyways, I think, like, that part maybe is metaphorical because she cannot physically stay 23 forever. But, like, the fact that other people notice it and reference it, and she is being very specific about being in that spot, I think there's some elements of literality that are intertwined. So it's kind of both. It's like I'm metaphorically stuck, but I'm also literally there.
Yeah, I think The Notebook is a good comparison to that. Like, he ages and stuff, but he doesn't leave the town. He has not moved on from her. Like, he's very stuck and waiting for that relationship.
He's a mad woman.
I have to watch. Ryan Gosling would be a mad woman. Ryan Gosling's the only person that could, like, also represent the female experience, both in that movie and in Barbie as Ken.
Oh man. Something I think is interesting about this song that we didn't talk about in the last episode, though, is that, yes, I'm still at a restaurant, but it starts with help. I think that's something that's a really interesting characterization, because we have the speaker as character one, we have you as the person, but then we also have like the people around her. And the help is really, the help is really interesting because she is stuck, but she does ask for help. And however, so help, I'm still at the restaurant, still sitting in a corner I haunt, cross-legged in the dim light. They say, what a sad sight. So she asks for help, but she's really not getting it. She's getting kind of dismissed, pitied from outside. And she's saying, like, help, I'm stuck in this restaurant. I can't move. I don't know what to do. And everyone's just like,
that's a
have
sad
you considered
sight.
Being better? Like,
what a shame.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she's like,
that help is interesting.
Dust is collecting and you are moving on with your life and you ignore me. This line, I cause no harm, mind my own business.
I know. It's so sad.
I'm unaware because I'm right where I cause no harm in my business. It's almost like she's forgotten because she's not really harming anybody else. They think she's odd. She's an oddity, but nobody's really willing to like help her out because
this is a Moaning Myrtle song.
Oh, that's so sad.
Isn't it? But like she's like stuck right where you left me. I mean, she was probably
nobody
13,
even bothered to ask her like how she died.
Like there's like, oh, what a shame, what a sad sight. Everybody moves on. The school keeps going. This is a Harry Potter reference for those who are like, what are you talking about, Jody? Moaning Myrtle, Harry Potter, Chamber of Secrets. What a sad sight. And I'm right where I cause no harm, mind my business. I mean, she doesn't mind her business. She actually gets very involved. But anyway, Moaning Myrtle.
With Harry.
We talked about this a little bit in the last episode, but like the expectation that women have to like move on, go in new relationships, get married. I'm thinking about like the spinster stereotype of like the woman who just couldn't find anybody and like lives on her own and like couldn't do anything. And I think people oftentimes like you get this impression that like that's what she wanted maybe and that's why she's there, or maybe she just like this idea that she couldn't find anybody. I think it's like, okay, well,
I think
that it's her fault, or like she chose to end up like in this miserable way, and people are just like not able to really help. The dust gathering on her hair kind of is really interesting imagery, because is it like her hair whitening? Is it literal dust? What if it's her aging?
Dust gathers when you don't move, right? When you
when
you
but
don't
it's
move.
also, it could be both. It could be her aging.
Yeah, it's the pinned up hair is interesting to me too, because in one way it kind of feels a little bit retro, so it almost seems even more of a call out to how much time it's been. But it's also, I'm going to preface this by saying, again, the speaker is a speaker. Yes, Taylor Swift and Aaron Dessner wrote this. We are not gossiping about Taylor's life, and we're not going down that path. Just saying this now. But I don't remember the reference. But there is, I think, some like older like lesbian culture about hairpins. And I don't know all of this, and I'm saying this from an uneducated point of view. But it would be a very interesting way to read the song, to read it from the point of view of someone who had a beautiful same-sex relationship when they were young, and then they were unable to continue it. And the other person found someone and has kids and Christmas and went on to that kind of standard life path. And this person is still stuck, still missing them, still wanting that. But they, you know, for many reasons, like just didn't feel like they could be together. And I think that's an interesting way to read the song. Just the story of it. It's if you talk about a mad woman, not being a straight woman for up until now, even is still like very much considered quote unquote deviant behavior, which I do not agree with. That is not me saying that word. That is just the term that has been used for hundreds of years. So talk about being a mad woman. If you see it from that point of view with some of those potential references there, it's a really interesting way, I think, to see this story as well.
Well, I think it's interesting. I like that interpretation a lot. I think there's something there about the hair. Like, yes, the fact that it's pinned up. I also think pin curls are an older style of hairstyle. I definitely think that there's like decades that have passed here. And so definitely in this situation, I feel like we're going beyond just like Taylor and Aaron Dessner. And like, it's a story here of a woman. And this whole album was very much about storytelling. So you're kind of imagining this like woman who, when she was 23, went through something, and literal decades have passed. And I am now starting to see the dust as like maybe like dust from sitting there. It's like a play on words. It's like, yeah, she hasn't moved, so she's just gathering dust. But literally, like, your hair looks dusty as you get older because it's whitening. And you could have both. You have this old hairstyle from back in the day, and then you are getting whites in your hair because you've been there so long.
I think it's also just a nice way to bring back the I swear you could hear a hairpin drop, because she has there are two hairpins. There's the you could hear a hairpin drop, meaning it was so quiet when, and like you can feel the moment stop, and then everybody moved on. Dust collected on my pinned up hair. It's almost like the hairpin drop was a phrase she used to explain how quiet it was. It's almost as if she picked up that hairpin and put it in her own hair because she was sitting there and didn't move.
The section that the hairpin drop, I just lost it.
Second verse.
Yeah. We get the glass shattered multiple times, but I swear you could hear a pin drop right when I felt the moment stop. Glass shattered on the white cloth. I always loved the glass shattered on the white cloth like imagery of just she does this so well of like creating those visual moments. Like we talked about it with time passing at the beginning. It wasn't just a like, it's been many years. Like she has these ways, but like you see it. Like I see in slow-mo a wine glass hitting a like nice tablecloth and shattering. Like that's a scene we've seen so many times in movies. And it's like you immediately can just
and it begs the question, was that an accident? Was there a fight? Was that deliberate? Like, why did the glass shatter on the white cloth? Also, it's a nice restaurant if there's a white cloth.
Yeah. I always interpret it as the shock of like, oh gosh, this is going to be a reference. Like in Legally Blonde, when Warner breaks up with her at the very beginning and she's like, are my boobs too big? Gosh, I love that movie. But that like dramatic scene, that's like kind of what I picture.
Because she's literally at the restaurant.
Because she's at the restaurant. It's a nice place.
And
he dumps
like
her.
23.
Yeah, and so creating a scene of dropping the glass, the shock, the anger, the what's happening is like that was the picture that I always conjured up with this line.
I love that image, and also like talk about a woman who did not stay right where he left her. She was like, I'm going to go to Harvard. Like, it's hard.
I watched that movie recently and it really held up, and that made me really happy.
I love that.
Is this the other person's perspective in Champagne Problems?
Ooh.
I was like, that is earlier on the album.
Look at you. Whoa.
I mean, the whole album, I feel like in this one and Folklore, she did a lot of like playing with characters and storytelling.
Yeah.
And the glass drop on the white cloth, like the glass shattered, just really threw me into Champagne Problems. And now I can't like
the only reason I would say no is the second, I don't even know what this is called, but at the restaurant, I was still the one you want, cross-legged in the dim light. Everything was just right. I could feel mascara run. You told me that you met someone, glass shattered on the white cloth. Everyone moved on.
So I interpret this as over time. So I interpret this as like they're at a restaurant that was their first date. And so when she is at the restaurant, when I was still the one you want, is remembering like it was a place they went to regularly when they were dating. And then it could be the place that he like broke up, or that place that somehow they broke up. And then they met up again years later just to catch up. And this other person is like, hey, so it's always like the same table at the same restaurant. It's like the pictures of their relationship.
I saw this as the moment that it ended. Like, they met at the restaurant. She's like, I met someone.
The line, your heart was glass, I dropped it, champagne problems.
The glass shattered on the white cloth.
I don't know.
Well, I guess I think that the glass shattered is like her heart breaking, someone's heart breaking, her heart breaking.
The reason I say that too is it gives me sort of musical reference, The Last 5 Years.
I love The Last 5 Years.
Where
Jason
it's kind
Robert
of like
Brown.
These moments of the relationship. So back when you still wanted me, and then the breakup, and then the catching up years later, of these just moments from whatever the story is here. But what's, I think, the key point of this song is this other person, for the first half of the relationship, they were leaving and coming back and doing things together. And then when they broke up, the other person left and moved on and did all of these things, and our speaker stayed there. So it's from that moment on, after the breakup, the relationship, those pictures, you go see the other person moving on, living their life, doing things. Again, the Notebook, she goes out, she lives her life, she does a whole bunch of stuff, and he stays in the same town, and he's hoping for that reuniting. And in this song, there is no reunion. It is genuinely over.
There is a reunion, except she says, mind my business. If our love died young, I can't bear witness, and it's been so long. But if you ever think you got it wrong, I'm right where you left me. Like, just in case, I know it's been a really long time, but if you should change your mind, even though you have a wife and kids, you will still find me where you left me. That, I think, is the saddest part of this whole thing. Not that she's frozen, not just that she's like frozen in time and just can't get over it, but that she's, I would call that truly delusion, that you think that, like, if you ever think you got it wrong and want to come back to me.
But that's what happens in the Notebook. She does come back.
Yeah. She does, doesn't she?
Yeah.
Maybe what is angering me is the perspective of a woman waiting for a man to come back.
But I kind of like the same-sex interpretation for that reason. Also, like, in Champagne Problems, which now I'm like, I need to listen to these two songs together to see if the music goes. But in Champagne Problems, because it's also like the woman who is doing the dumping, right, because there was a person there with the mom's ring in your pocket and like whatever.
Right.
We don't know that the speaker or the person getting dumped is a man necessarily. It could have been two women.
But what's interesting is that speaker in Champagne Problems is also a mad woman. What a shame she's fucked in the head.
Yeah.
Right? So there's another person. So if big if, these are two sides of the same story, they're both mad.
Yeah, like, and people say she would have made such a lovely bride, but we don't know like who they're like. Referring. I don't know. Like, I think it could be an interesting take.
The Gaylors are finally going to like our podcast with this episode.
I just think it's an interesting take because we've talked about how like a lot of the songs have an I and a U, and it's always kind of ambiguous. You also have multiple songwriters. Sometimes it's like Taylor and Aaron Dessner writing. Don't know who is male, who is female. Like, it could be very interchangeable. Right. And so it does make for like an interesting theory. I also just love the idea of, there's like, clearly in this song, there were a lot of people there who were there when the moment stopped or when the pin dropped. You could hear the pin drop, and then they've all moved on. It says everybody moved on. So it kind of makes it feel like there were people who have been along for the ride. They all moved on, and I'm still stuck here. You have these moments.
Everyone moved on, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you have these moments, I think, like, with friendships and stuff where, like, oh, there was, like, that couple that dated for years when we were all in college, and then they broke up, and, like, everyone has moved on. Even though we were all there for that moment to witness it. And then maybe the person is, like, still stuck there, and they're like, oh, everyone else has gotten married and moved on with their lives, but I'm still whatever. So I think it's interesting, that contrast between just, like, this person and all the other people who were a part of it. Champagne Problem also had a lot of people standing around.
Yeah,
there's a lot of others in these should be very intimate, personal situations, right? You've got two people who are involved in a relationship, but in this song, in Champagne Problems, and in a couple of the others that we've spoken about, there's a lot of people involved, and I feel like it's the other people that create the societal expectations. It's not the two people in the relationship, right? Like it's society.
This is very Jean-Paul Sartre of you to be saying that.
Oh, I have him on my bookshelf.
Hell is other people, which does not mean
is other people.
It does not mean hell is being around other people, but hell is the expectations of other people.
Yes.
Okay, fine. We can go down this hole. Whatever. Yes, I don't have notes about something on this here. Oh wait, I do.
Open the door. Go ahead. Jen, you were just waiting for.
I know. I was like,
good.
Existentialism.
I made some notes. I was like, if it comes up, I'll talk about this. And then it came up, and I was like, okay.
I just want to see how many tabs and your notes and what you've got going here.
For the most part, put everything in Notion because I was nervous.
Sponsor us, Notion.
Shout out to Notion.
Shout out Notion. We love you.
So we're gonna get into some Foucault. So we're going deep here. So have either of you ever heard of the Panopticon? Does this ring a bell at all? Okay.
Nope.
So this was a real prison designed in
Yes, I know what this is.
1790-ish, I think. It was a real prison designed by Jeremy Bentham, and the idea was
they have a dead body of him at UCL. I went to University College of London, and they have they have like a cast of his body and like dressed in 1790s gear in the building at University College London. If somebody who goes, I mean, I was there like a decade ago, but if somebody goes there now and can confirm that there's still his like. It was real creepy.
What?
After you said, oh yeah, if you had paused and someone had offered me $1 million to guess what you were going to say next, I never would have come up with that.
And they still have his body there.
I'm going to look this up while you keep talking. Anyway, go ahead. Continue.
Oh my gosh, I have a tear in my eye. That was so unexpected. Okay. Whew. So the Panopticon, it was a real prison design, and the idea was it was a circle. So there was this like circle of prison cells with windows on both sides, and then there'd be a guard tower in the middle. And the way that it worked is from the guard tower, you could see the outlines of every prisoner in their cell. So you don't need people walking the hallways, you just need the guard tower, and they can monitor everyone from the center. But the psychological purpose of it was the guard tower is blacked out. You can't see into it. So as a prisoner, you don't know if someone is ever watching you, but you know that someone could always be watching you. So therefore, the idea is that prisoners would be a bit more self-regulated because they know that they could always be being watched. So we're going to get into a little bit of Foucault here. So he had some like philosophies and theories about this. But it... A good way to kind of think of it, if I think everyone for the most part is familiar, if you think of like 1984 and Big Brother and the idea that Big Brother is always watching, and like we know that Big Brother was probably maybe not always watching, but the idea that Big Brother could always be watching meant everyone was regulating themselves. So Foucault gets into this in his book Discipline and Punish, and is all about this kind of idea of like a disciplinary society that is all about creating the self-regulation. So you can get into the intense version like Big Brother, or you can think about any, like historically we have so many examples of this of like fascist countries where people were reporting their neighbors. You see it in Fahrenheit 451 as well, where people were reporting, oh, they have books, they're doing this, and you're kind of reporting on other people's behaviors. But you can even go a layer deeper and just think about like social norms. So hell is other people, the expectations of other people that especially even now with like social media, like how often do you take a picture and you're like, well, how is this going to look to everyone else, instead of just genuinely enjoying the moment? But this idea that you could be being observed by people at any point, and so you naturally self-regulate so that you're doing things that are appropriate or whatever.
You know, things on the internet will live forever, so therefore you do not put things on the internet.
Yeah, that you don't need a camera in the corner of your living room to have to be like, oh,
my dog helps me self-regulate because she's always watching as she stares at me right now.
And so
isn't that also something similar where like one of the philosophers was like inspired by his cat? Was that Sartre?
I hope that's true.
There's
that
some
could be. I could totally see that being
some
Sartre.
philosopher that like wrote a whole thing
like
about
Sartre.
like my cat it's like a cat. He came out naked in front of his cat one day and then went down this rant about like, does the cat see nakedness? And like, I don't know.
But what we were saying, champagne problems, and here of like, they say what a sad sight, everybody moved on. But the idea that this person, the implication to me of this song is if there were not societal expectations, I don't know if this song would exist. That if it was okay to be sad, if it was okay to process, or if people were genuinely helping and not judging. But it does seem to me that it's the expectations of this person moving on. It's the observations of the people that are what actually are keeping her stuck.
Right.
Because she just doesn't have the resources, the help, or the freedom to move forward in the way she needs to.
Right. Because it's almost, and this is me projecting, so come with me on this journey. Is she really sad and stuck because of this specific person? Or because of the expectation that she should be with someone and she should have a person. And now she doesn't.
Small correction. It was Derrida, not Sartre, who had the cat thing moment.
Wrong philosopher.
Yes.
Right,
but I think also like
right place, wrong time.
I think it's a little bit of both, right? Like I think it is partially the people who are not letting her move on, but I also think because the question where she says help and nobody is helping feels like that the enabling, it's like the other people are like not helping her get out, so it's like they are complicit. But it's not just them. Like she is mentally stuck there. She just and physically stuck there. But she needs help, and she kind of wants
could use help.
Yeah.
This song feels like a parallel to me of Renegade, which is a Taylor Swift song, but written for what's Aaron Dessner's band? I should know this.
Oh, I should know this. Oh, Chris genuinely loves this band.
Yeah,
he is a fan. Oh,
nope, not Bon Iver.
It's not Bon Jovi.
Nope. Oh God, we're gonna cut this out of the podcast.
Yeah, I didn't mean
no, we're not. Leaving it in. We're leaving it in. Is it Big Red Machine?
A Renegade.
Big Red Machine.
Anyway, this song feels like a parallel to Renegade, which is written by Taylor Swift and Aaron Dessner, I believe, but it was for Big Red Machine. But in that song, the person who needs help is a man. It's the person she's singing about, and she's saying, like, let me help you. You wouldn't be the first renegade to need somebody.
Yeah.
And I go back to just like women will be there to help and men just won't. And society won't help women, but women will always help others.
Do you want to know something really heartbreaking? I saw some story from a nurse once where she said when she was in school, they taught her when a woman gets diagnosed with breast cancer to start also trying to gently help prepare them for divorce, because divorce rates for women who are diagnosed with breast cancer are
men don't want to help.
Huge.
Yeah, chronic illnesses in general.
Yeah.
Men do better. For the 3 men who listen to this podcast, you're probably not the problem, but if you could help your friends, that'd be great.
So one of the reasons I really love this song, I have not experienced a romantic breakup where I really connect to this emotion. Fortunately, I'm very lucky for that. But I think it is about a breakup, but I think it does capture so well that idea of being stuck. We're just talking about help and stuff. So I just kind of want to like expand some of this conversation too of, yes, it is a story, but I also think it is kind of a metaphor for just in general feeling stuck and not knowing where to go. And we get that so much of like, one thing I wanted to bring up with that is she's still 23 inside her fantasy. And I know, I mean, this is a really famous quote, and I think Taylor has referenced it as well, of like famous people tend to be stuck at the age they got famous, that's how everyone sees them. But I think even outside of just fame, I think a lot of us can sometimes feel stuck at like just a moment in the past when we felt like we were doing well.
I think it is 20s. I think there's some study to do that you are mentally like stuck in your 20s.
I definitely stopped my age at 30. Like even when I start counting things of how long it's been, I for whatever reason count from as if
it has to do with the way that your brain actually records memories. Like your longest memories and your most frequent ones are in your 20s.
I also think the pandemic did a number on how we process time and think about time. Like, wild.
But I just think there's some of the other lyrics that go bigger than just a relationship. And the idea of you left me no choice to stay here forever, we can say that's to the person that broke up with her, but I do think that there might be a bigger, the you there. Sometimes I think it can be read as like society of like, well, what am I supposed to do now? Like, or just to the universe.
It's like, Mrs. Havisham.
Oh,
this is a Mrs. Havisham song.
I have my
Oh,
Enchanted
you did it?
reference.
You did it?
I do. But when she says, please don't be in love with someone else, she's saying that to the person, but it feels more like a prayer to the universe in some ways. And I think that I read the you left me no choice is sort of to the person, but I think it's more of a general statement to the powers that be of like, well, what am I supposed to do now? What I'm stuck here. That it's to that
dear
just
reader,
broader sense of stuck.
You, dear reader, left me. You people. Yeah. That's so sad.
I also think the imagery of haunt is interesting. We've talked about this, I think, in the past. She uses the idea of haunt a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. But this image is so still sitting in a corner. I haunt cross-legged in the dim light. And again, something about that image to me just feels like sort of, this is about to get real therapy, inner child. The cross-legged, I think, brings kind of inner child. But that kind of inner child is still stuck somewhere, is holding on to something, is still in pain from something, needs to be healed from something. But that gives me that line did not give me very romantic images. That gave me a little bit more kind of child or something a little bit broader.
Somebody meditative maybe also. I feel like cross-legged can be like you're just stuck.
I mean, I'm sitting cross-legged right now.
Yeah, I find
it comfortable.
But
it's also like you try to like cross-legged. You can like make yourself smaller. You're like physically making yourself smaller.
The image of somebody sitting in the corner haunting it in that chair now is just reminding me of the image that Jody has just shared with us of this
Jeremy Bentham, I was correct. It's an auto icon. Apparently he did indeed want his dead body preserved. And then they made a wax form for his head. Oh, this is going in the show notes for sure. But like,
be sure to check out that image because that's what I'm envisioning now. He's not cross-legged, but it's like pretty haunting.
But it's haunting. And I used to pass by it. It was like in the main building on campus, and I used to pass by it on the way to class.
Always surveying, always watching.
Just watching all the students.
You said always serving, and I thought you were about to say he was always serving looks, and I was like, what
yes,
is
he is
this
always
podcast anymore?
Look at this photo. He is always serving looks.
Surveillance.
Oh my goodness.
He is sitting in the corner I haunt. We left him no choice but to stay there forever.
It's crazy because I think when I think of the word haunt now in terms of Taylor Swift, I think of like there's like the person who is haunted and then there's the person doing the haunting. And I think it's interesting that she's here doing the haunting.
The haunting.
Because it implies that like other people are haunted. It makes us sad and uncomfortable because it's like one of those things that we have to come to terms with and sometimes tells us something about ourselves. It's like the conversation that people often have about homelessness. It's like homelessness is uncomfortable for other people. I mean, it's, I'm sure, uncomfortable for homeless people as well, but it's like especially unpleasant to look at and people don't like to look at it because it makes you realize that you're maybe a crappy human for like letting them be that way, or the fact that you don't want to help, or like, I don't know, it makes you realize things about yourselves.
Something about yourself.
Yeah. And I think the fact that she has like said help in the song, she's like talking about how some other people or person left her, decades have passed. It's like you almost get a sense of like pity for this person. And the fact that she haunts this corner, I wonder if it's like one of those things like people talk about it. They're like, oh, well, but everybody else moved on. And something about her presence there makes people uneasy. Is haunting.
Yes.
Yeah. Which is a really interesting choice of word.
In the world of city planning, this is what my husband does.
I was like, how do you know so much about so many things?
I'm brilliant. Next.
Yes.
No.
That's the right answer.
The city planning comes definitely from Chris, but he talks about this a lot. So there's a word, NIMBY, and it stands for not in my backyard. Which,
San Francisco.
Yeah, very San Francisco.
Yeah. His firm's based out of San Francisco. So it's there. But you see it in Indy too. And for those of you who don't know what this means, it's the idea of city planning of saying like, we need more affordable housing, and people don't generally disagree with that. They're like, yeah, sure, we should get more people in houses. No one wants homelessness. There's probably some people who want homelessness. Most of society doesn't want homelessness. But then if someone's like, then they're like, okay, well, we're going to put it here. Everyone who lives around there is like, no. We theoretically want this, but not in our backyard.
Not in my
I don't want to face this. I don't want to be the one that's dealing with this. And so it's this idea of that it's a difference between wanting it in theory and actually being willing to do it. It also
the fact
sort
that
of
we just related NIMBY to Taylor Swift it's
great.
Really, it's impressive.
Yeah. It also vaguely reminds me of, I've worked at some tech companies that were all about quote unquote diversity, DEI, and all of this stuff. And they kept hiring, and their version of it was they kept hiring white men who believed in DEI, and that's not the same thing. Like, it's not
cute.
Telling someone what a sad sight or telling someone to move on is not the same thing as helping them.
Like,
it's pity. It's a little bit of pity, but that's also why I think it's haunting. It's like people know better, but like nobody's doing anything to help here.
I agree with you. I think the word haunt is an interesting one because I think it's everybody else feels haunted and by seeing this person who is just stuck and won't move on.
Or it's Moaning Myrtle.
It is Moaning Myrtle. It's Moaning Myrtle. It's Mrs. Havisham.
It's interesting though, because this entire song, the narrator kind of seems to have different views of herself, because she says help, but then she is the one who defines herself as being the one who's doing the haunting. And it's almost like this song is very stuck, very indecisive, and it almost feels like the narrator also doesn't quite know who they are or how to categorize what they're doing, because they are that far lost, that far. But she is also, this is just so many things.
She's also so aware of what they say. She knows exactly the kinds of things they murmur. She knows what they're saying. She knows how she looks. She's a very self-aware ghost if she's become a ghost of a person.
Casper is self-aware, right?
It's like she's self-aware of the situation around her, but she's very confused internally of what she should or wants to do.
She's helpless.
Yeah.
She's very helpless, and the only thing she sees as being able to change her situation is, if you ever think you got it wrong, I'm right where you left me.
Yeah.
You can come back to me.
I think I'm ready for my purpose. How are we feeling? Since I said it, I can go first.
Since I'm ready, let me tell you what my purpose is.
Like I said, this is definitely my mental health song. It was my most played song in 2022 and only my 5th most played song in 2023. So Jennifer is healing and therapy works. We are improving. It's great. But the reason I feel that way is the song, to me, has always communicated really, really effectively communicated the idea of being stuck and just in that feeling of helplessness of, it's something I actually was just talking about in therapy of like, when I'm in those places where I need help, I'm at a point where I can say I need help, but then people don't really know what to do. And that like, what is more effective is if I can say, hey, can you do this? That would really help me, because I have people who want to help me. And it's like, but there's those moments where you're like, I need help, but I don't know what I need help with. And this song is that moment for me, where either I'm having like just a depression day, which happens when you're just like, I just don't think I can function. I don't know where to go. I don't know what to do. Or the idea of not being able to move on, those phases of life where you feel like, I don't know what's next. And the advice you always get is like, well, what do you want to do? And I'm like, right now, nothing. I want an answer. Like, that's what I want. I don't know how to, like, you have no, like, just truly no idea what to do next, which feels very like, even more so like late 20s and early 30s. We're at the point where you're like, I feel like I should have an answer. And when I still don't, it feels even more dramatic. And it also captures to me too, the talking about other people moving on, like friends. I think we've talked about this in other episodes too, but like friends having kids, friends moving to new places, and kind of feeling a little bit left behind as people are like, I have done things in my life, but I've had many, many moments where it just feels like everyone's progressing forward and I feel like I haven't done anything. And I think it's been especially late 20s, early 30s where I'm starting to look back of like, I'm not where I thought I would be. I'm going to have a Taylor Swift podcast I'm doing in some ways way better than I thought I would be. But also like, you know, like professionally, I'm not really exactly where I thought I was going to go, or, you know, just kind of like feeling like I'm kind of just, people are watching people like lap me, it feels like, and being like, what am I supposed to do? Like, I feel like I'm just stuck here. I don't know my next step. And it just, so this song to me, it is a relationship, but I do feel like the story and the metaphor really, really captures those moments of feeling stuck either in your own head or in your own emotions when you're having just, I call them bad mental health days. Like, I don't even have more words for them. Just those days where you're just like, you want me to get out of bed? Okay. Like, big expectations today. We'll see. But also those life moments of, wait, am I where I want to be? Do I need to be doing anything different? They seem like they're moving on. Is like that the path I'm supposed to be on? Like, just those kind of questioning moments. So I think it kind of captures those two feelings of stuckness for me personally.
I'm going to be more flippant and say that the purpose of the song is that it's an ad for antidepressants. Because I started writing down what I think the purpose is, and I was like, processing that you can't process things right now. And I was like, oh, right, that's depression. And I don't think I realized that until having this conversation, but like, this woman's depressed. And this is what it feels like, right? This like feeling of everything else is just what everything you said, Jen. Like, everything else is moving on and everybody else is moving, and I just can't move. I can't make a decision. I am just stuck. And I am both I'm haunted myself by everything and also haunting the other people who are there. And when you're depressed, it's really hard for people to help you because there's really nothing you can do other than like therapy and antidepressants and just kind of like getting through it. Speaking from personal experience, as my therapist listens to this, hi. But yeah, so I think that this is just a feeling that is, this song feels stuck because that is what it feels like. You just feel stuck.
Are we diagnosing the speaker as a mad woman?
I am not a mental health professional, but I do.
I'm like, are we defining this person as mentally unstable?
No, but no, not mentally unstable. Depression does not mean mental instability. However, I recognize these feelings as what I feel. In depression.
Yeah. In some ways, I think this is kind of like the evolution or like the modern mad woman, because it's like, how has madness, quote unquote, changed over time? It's like,
we recognize that it's depression. That's a chemical imbalance. There are things we can do. It happens to men too. But yeah, I go back to the line, like, did you hear about the girl who lives in delusion? Breakups happen every day. They don't have to lose it. It's like, well, you do have to feel it. Like, why are we, like, this is the society defining what she's feeling as losing it and as delusion. You are allowed to feel your feelings. What's important is that you feel them and can work through them to get out of this stage. I don't know that this person has.
But I like Jen's interpretation that what you just said, which is the person hasn't quite gotten there yet, and they may not get there. Like the fact that they have asked. And what's so interesting is that we're fixated on this word help, but it's only one word in the whole song. And it does really change the meaning.
She says it twice.
Oh, does she say it twice?
One verse.
Yeah. Sorry, but like this idea that she's asking for help. She just doesn't quite know how to get it. And she feels like failed by society in some way, again, to the like what made her that way kind of thing. There's one angle of saying like only you can get yourself out of it, which I think is what our present philosophy is like in this day and age, which is like you can't really rely on other people. Like you've got to figure this out somehow on your own. But I think like
you're on your own.
The song isn't even like there yet. It's just her saying like, it's almost like her taking stock of what is happening around her. She's like,
she knows she needs help. She just doesn't know how or what.
And she knows what people say, and she feels abandoned, and she feels helpless. And it's like taking stock
the self-awareness
of the environment, and yet not quite knowing what the next step is and how to get to the next step, and just feeling abandoned by society.
Which is to me what depression feels like, where you just you can't. I just when I have that, like I am able. People are able to tell me, like, okay, like when I say people, I mean my therapist. You are depressed.
Right. Now we have some tools.
I see that, but I don't know what to tell. Like I last year after a breakup went through a period of depression, and I remember my mom being like I had to look for an apartment at the same time, and I couldn't do it. Like I couldn't. Nothing was right, but also I would look and I'm like, I was like, I understand objectively that everything will be fine. I don't feel that way right now. And I can't, and I you just need to give me time to get there. And everything's fine. I found an apartment. Everything's wonderful. I started a podcast, right? Like everything is fine, but it's just, it's looking and seeing like, I know I need help. I just can't I'm not capable of getting
I think
there
it's
right
like
now.
what you're getting to, which is like today, these days, in some societies, if we're lucky and privileged enough, we are given a toolbox to work through these things. You can get words to identify the feelings. You can have ways to pinpoint what you're feeling. You can be given methodologies to try to work through it. But not everyone has that toolbox. Correct. And in this song, I would argue this person does not have the toolbox. She's taking stock and explaining like what has happened, but doesn't really have the means to go and do something about it at this point in time.
Right.
Which kind of brings me to my take, which is that like originally when I heard the song, I did think it was just about a breakup and like a person who is frozen in time, kind of similar to like The Notebook or the song by Script, where you're just like, I'm going to stay right here and wait. But it definitely does feel more of like a plea for help after going through it, or like her encapsulating a feeling of helplessness, of just like, I didn't choose this life. It's just how I've ended up here. And I don't love it, but it is what it is. I'm right where you left me and I can't move. I love the finger pointing indirectly a little bit at the other people who let her stay this way, because I think on one hand we criticize society when we say people are like, clean up your face, like move on, get your act together. Like we kind of criticize those people and we're like, well, I'm not ready for that yet. But at the same time, maybe there comes a time where you do need that from somebody and like you're also not getting that. So it's like, what's that point where people give up on you, you know? And like here years have passed and people have moved on and people have given up on her, and it's just very, like,
there's
very
that
sad.
Crazy lady that sits in the corner.
Yeah,
it is sad.
I like that you brought up Tool Belt too, because it does feel full circle. Because this song truly I have sent to a couple of friends and been like, when I have a day where I seem off, this is how I feel. This captures that stuff.
It helps you explain it. And
it's genuinely helped me explain it. And I've had people be like, oh, that's how you feel. And I'm like, yes. And I have friends who will be like, hey, will you just go for a walk with me? And I'm like, I don't want to. And they're like, just come with me for 20 minutes.
It's not a question.
Yeah, but it's that like gentle, like you said, of like, oh, it's not just a get better, but it's just a please come do one thing, and like baby steps, you know, and it does help me. Yeah. But this song was genuinely a helpful communication tool. So thank you, Taylor.
Thank you, Taylor Swift.
We are not licensed mental health professionals, so this is all our own experience. Want to say this for legal reasons.
We love our licensed mental health professionals.
We love our
also the references to Mad Woman were in response to our previous episode, so go back and watch that. We don't actually think this person is crazy, and we're not using that word lightly, so please watch our Mad Woman episode.
The disclaimers that we have to put on this episode.
Ooh, all right. I'm going to go eat a cupcake. So that's how I'm going to recover from this episode. I'm
going to go cuddle
my dog. All have okay, perfect. All right. Well, we'll see you next time on AP Taylor Swift.